spend a decent amount of time on Seahawks Niners because this is the first playoff game. It matters a ton, especially for the Niners, because if they win, they get home field. If they lose, they're going on the road.
Yep.
And the difference between that is massive, right? Their chance of winning the Super Bowl would go from about 30% with a win, which is which is huge, and then all of a sudden you drop down to below 10% with a loss. So that's how drastic this game is and how much it matters. And I was surprised personally, and I'm still a little surprised that the Seahawks are more than a 3-point underdog. Are you?
No.
Does that really not surprise you at all?
No, because here's the thing about the 49ers. Their point differential, their yards per play, their EPA per play, all that kind of stuff, both offensively and defensively, are very good. And they've regressed some lately, but they're very good. Seattle, no. Seattle point differential, Seattle. This game reminds me of the game where we had Green Bay plus the 3 in San Francisco, and a lot of other people had San Francisco for reasons that now are apparent, which is San Francisco is a very efficient team. The other team is not. Over the course of time, the difference here, though, is that the quarterback for Seattle is legitimately good, whereas the quarterback for Green Bay at this point in time is living off of legacy. So I am somewhat surprised that it's moved out to 3.5 because that's really begging people to bet Seattle. I imagine the ticket count would be, they're going to report these kind of BS ticket and money counts for this game, and I think the guy from Bet Online is going to tweet out, we need Seattle tonight, But I would not bury Seattle. I would not say they're dead here. I think Russell Wilson's overcome a lot. San Francisco, we talked about their game against Atlanta. It came somewhat to fruition against LA. There are fundamental issues with San Francisco. They're still a great team, but they're not perfect. And I think some of those could rear their ugly head, on Sunday night.
Well, so I look at the offense first, and Russell Wilson is by far the better quarterback, about a 92 overall grade, Jimmy G, 76. So that tells you Russell Wilson has played dramatically better than Jimmy G. But San Francisco 49ers, expected points added per pass play, 0.14. Seattle, 0.03.
Right.
Which is a large difference between the two. Seattle's about league average, slightly above, and San Francisco's like top 6. I think they might actually be 6th. So what that tells you is, are you more confident in one singular player being great in this game? Or are you more confident in a scheme that has proven to be successful over the course of the season, remaining successful? Maybe in spite of a quarterback who has the chance of being worse. And that is a really interesting matchup. So I want to say that I think the advantage goes to San Francisco there because there's more stability in all of the players that are playing and all of those guys being healthy. Remember, Kittle was out in that Week 10 matchup.
Yep.
Emmanuel Sanders got hurt in that game early on. And then Kendrick Bourne needed a rebirth, and he wanted to forget that game because he all of a sudden went out there and forgot how to run routes. So I would not put any stock in that game, and I think that's the most interesting aspect of this one is, do you choose the singular greatness of Russell Wilson or the team greatness of San Francisco? The defenses, this is my question for you. How much do the defenses matter in this game?
Wow. Well, I think here's the thing. I think if Seattle has the cluster injuries that they had against the last few teams, then it matters, right? If Griffin, Quandre Diggs, Clowney, and Michael Kendricks, some subset of 3 or 4 of those players are all out, they're screwed defensively, and I think that matters. If all of their players are playing, I think that defense matters a lot less. I think it's basically about which quarterback plays better, because we saw in the earlier matchup, Jimmy G. Of course, the injuries mattered, but we saw it against the Rams. The inaccuracy is just sometimes going to bite them, and I don't know. So for me, I think it's more about the quarterbacks. The only thing that I would pull back on is if Seattle's missing half their starters like they have been at times, then it's a problem.
I want to say that it matters a little bit, but I really just don't think it does because Seattle's defense is bad regardless. of who they have out there. And
Right.
it's all about the Niners executing. It's all about Jimmy G executing. And if they do, they're going to put up points, regardless of how healthy Seattle is. On the other side of things, the Niners have a lot of talent, obviously. But it still comes down to whether the Seahawks, like if Jamarco Jones is out there playing tackle, put me in, coach, right? Like I'll get my Niners jersey on real quick, get myself a couple of pressures, off the edge. Like it's just about whether those offenses can do the certain things that push them over to that level, right? So for San Francisco, it's Jimmy G being good Jimmy G. For Seattle, it's don't light the house on fire, everyone but Russell Wilson, right? Like just manage to not completely poop yourself.
Yeah.
And if so, then they've got a legit shot. But I don't think the defenses matter a whole lot in this game. If one of those defenses ends up having, if San Francisco ends up having a dominant performance, it's because Seattle is incapable of rising to the level Russell needs.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said, and so it'll be interesting here because I am three
nervous.
and a half is too many.
As a person that wants the Niners obviously to win because I'm a fan, but feels terrible about knowing they're more than a field goal favorite on the road in Seattle against Russell Wilson. If I had to bet one side of this game, this is one of those games where I can see the Niners winning by 20, but if I had to take one side of 3.5, I would take the Seattle side and then just watch the game and know I'll be happy either way.
Yeah. We at times, so there's been times in this podcast where we said that Seattle had value in the NFC West. Then there was times we said San Francisco had value in the NFC West. Hopefully you're carrying both of those and like you end up with just like a pure profit there. But for example, if you have some 49ers futures to win the NFC West, a Seattle bet is not the worst thing in the world.
Right. Well,
because it has expected EV anyway.
I have some 49ers futures, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So you would take, if you just didn't have any leverage,
I would take
way.
Seattle, but again, I don't think it's going to make. Well, it did not make our picks column, and it's not something that I'm gonna like as lock of the week.
Lock of the week material.
Yeah. It's not the teaser we had last week.
No, absolutely not. Here's one other angle that I love using the word angle.
Angles
makes me feel professional. This game means a ton for the Niners, but really doesn't mean as much for the Seahawks because it's like the difference between playing at home against the Vikings or the road against the NFC least. Does that in any way play into this?
So Seattle doesn't have an opportunity to get a...
No, because they lost last week.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I do think it matters though, because I think their home field advantage is significant, and I think they are not afraid of the Vikings.
I agree.
Like, there's a chance they could play Dallas, right? Like, I would rather play Minnesota at home than Dallas on the road. I understand Philadelphia, but Philadelphia is not a dumpster fire from a coaching perspective. They're just
as
struggle.
home underdogs, which they would probably be, is the last thing I'd want to do. I just think from a travel standpoint, you want to avoid traveling at all costs as much as possible in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would throw that narrative out the window.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.